I dag skal vi være bamsete og gode, fordi at vi skal smake på bamsevin med noen ekte franskmenn. Er det en fransk bamse, eller er det en kosebamse? Følg med! Hei, hjertelig velkommen til en ny episode av Kjell Svinkjeller og Tom Harald Løvås sin drinkfeed. I dag, Tom, så er vi ute på tur, ikke så langt, vi er i hovedstaden, men vi har fått lov å møte flotte folk fra Frankrike, og de er kjent for en vin som veldig mange nordmenn kjenner, nemlig Bamsevinen.
Ja, altså Bamsevinen er jo nærmest en institusjon, og fikk vi akkurat vite at den har vært her i 12 år, har den vært på markedet i Norge, og det er jo litt sånn, det er jo nesten et jubileum, det er ikke alle som overlever så lenge, og vi har fått med oss gutta fra Frankrike, som du sa, og nå skal vi snart bytte over til engelsk, fordi de folka her skjønner jo ikke så mye norsk at de gjør noe, jeg er ikke plaget med det, men Før vi gjør det, Kjell-Gabriel, har du noen store minner av denne bamsbrakarvinen?
Ja, altså dette er litt gøy, fordi at jeg er veldig glad i kosebamser, eller jeg vet ikke om jeg er glad i kosebamser, men jeg synes det er veldig hyggelig. Og så når jeg ser, første gang jeg så den, så var det sånn, oi, det var en morsom etikett, bilde av en sånn liten bamse på. Og så tenkte jeg, trenger det å være så godt da? Og så jeg tror jeg husker første gang jeg smakte den, jeg tror det var i 2016 eller 2017. Så da tenkte jeg at dette her er en fantastisk kul vin. Og så har den liksom vært litt sånn i periferien hele tiden. Og nå skal vi meg prate om det på live podcast også.
Ja, så live som det blir da, sånn som når vi lager det. Right, so we are switching to English now, and I have to introduce Elliot. Welcome to you, and Christoph. Very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you.
And Elliot, you are the heir of the house. You are the new generation, or should we say the new wine?
Yeah.
Maybe can you tell us a little bit about the house and how it started with your grandfather and your father and so on?
Yeah, is my grandfather in Kaunas in the past is not really famous, and a lot of viticulture, winemaker is just only a big vineyard. And my grandfather have the logic to making not really biologic, but the first biologic vine in the Kaunas. And he making terraces. And it's the first time we look the tree, the grass mixed in the vine. And we have a biotope very interesting for that now. And my dad just completely the mountain is, what did you say, is you have a vine tree, and my dad destroys the forest for making same, and a lot of terraces for only big mountains in the north of Kaunas. And now the first time my grandfather making wine is in concrete, and my dad making the first time in barrel in 98, the first. And now he in 17, he thinks barrel is not good for the Syrah, but Syrah is a lot of tannin, very big, full. It's for that now we are only concrete, and we want making vine mineral and fruity, but it's hard sometimes.
Do you have anything to say about it yet in terms of how to make the wine, or do you are more into the management of the?
For me,
yeah.
Now I'm the boss of culture in the French. I'm making just the vine, and is my first years. These years I'm making my wine is a carbonic of Syrah. A little bit different style of my dad.
Yeah, we have to put in that you're only 18.
Yeah,
starting early in France. And Christophe, tell us a little bit about the label, the bear, because the name Petit Orso mean little bear.
Absolutely, it all comes from a late night, a very late night in Montreal. We were having a meal with different producers, and there's a good friend of Mathieu and me called Stéphane Tissot from Jura, who likes to joke on other people, and he was saying words to Mathieu. Well, Mathieu was saying words to Stéphane, and Stéphane turned around and said, "Shut up, you little bear," based on the fact that Mathieu is not very tall, quite round, long hair, beard, so he's got a bit of that hairy look. So that's where the name came from, and it's in reference to a kid's storybook. So it's Little Bear learns to brush his teeth, and Little Bear goes to the beach, and Little Bear this. So it's all on the joke. And in 2000, something like 2010, I think is probably the first vintage, or 2009, Mathieu wanted to make a Syrah-based wine entry level, because Mathieu originally only has Cornas wines. So as Elliot was saying, it's quite steep vineyards, expensive. You need a lot of labor to run the vineyards. So the wines are expensive. And Mathieu wanted to have an entry-level Syrah to introduce a wider public to his work and style. And that's how the whole wine came to life. And I look after the export sales for Mathieu. And when he came up with the idea, I'm going to put a Little Bear on the label, I was like, God, Mathieu, this is not a good idea commercially and marketing-wise. And it turns out to be a fantastic reverse marketing and a really eye-catch wine, which has a very good success.
I always say that the French wines are hard to learn to know, because every French wine has chateau something and a building. For a Norwegian, it's a chateau, this chateau, I would never know. So you're going in the opposite direction. So maybe that's helping. I think that is
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a reverse marketing, because the label is very naive. Some people find it a bit stupid, but everybody who sees that label remembers it. And where Mathieu is very good, or very strong, is that the wine is quite serious. So people see the bottle as an easy, simple wine, but when you taste it, you think, oh, there's a lot more than what I expected. So that's why I talk about reverse marketing, is that the promise of the label is a lot lower than what actually the wine is about.
Yeah, because in Norway we call it the bear wine.
Yeah.
And if it has chateau or something, we haven't called it anything. So for Norwegians, this is a good thing, I think. But is it working in France as well?
Yes. It's a very successful story. He started making probably the first vintage. It was probably 15,000 bottles. And today it's around 200,000 bottles. So it's a great progression. Norway is possibly the biggest market, especially now that we won the test wine. So there's now the monopoly. It's on the shelves of the monopoly. So that's giving a very wide visibility. But we sell a lot in France, in England, in America is a big market as well. So it's really a wine which is touching every type and different types of markets.
But Elliot, are you going to continue with making wine with the little animals on
the style of wine?
Yeah, maybe a little rabbit or something.
No. It's the beer now where you have a lot of different bottle of this label, because people like this label, and we have a big difference of beer. The beer for the négoce. And the Domaine du Coulet is a real wine. It's fake, but it's normal. It's a wine we making, and the difference is good for that. And I think it's never change.
I think maybe we should prepare a little tasting, because today we have two vintages. We have the 22, which are on sale now, and also we're going to try the 23, who is on their way into the shelves in the wine monopoly. And we have some help here. It's a wonderful sound, isn't it?
Nå koser vi oss, Tom.
Altså, dette dritkult. Og det jo hyggelig å høre på de gutta her. De vet jo hva de snakker om.
Ja, altså for dere som ikke så stø i engelsk, så det at Bamsevinen jo rett og slett blitt en ikonisk vin, og veldig utypisk at de har bamse på etikett, i og med at alle viner i Frankrike heter chateau et eller annet, så jeg liker det.
Ja, altså vi liker det begge to. So you guys are going to guide us through the tasting, and because of the rules here in Norway, you two guys are not allowed to tell us how you feel about it. That's up to Kjell-Gabriel and I.
Absolutely.
So, but we can try by describing the style and the wine. So this is the 22
vintage. So the making of this wine is actually a forehand partnership between Mathieu, as I explained, looking for an entry-level Syrah. But in Nord-Rôhne, Côte-du-Rhône Syrah is very rare. It's very small surface planted. So you're either in Saint-Joseph or in Croix-Hermitage, so you're already either in an upper level of style of wine. So he's very good friends with a producer in the northern part of Southern Rhône, around the village of Visan, Rémy Puisin. And they did a partnership, so probably 15 years ago now, where they selected vineyards which are all in cooler areas, facing north, catching the Mistral, all only Syrah, so it is 100% Syrah-based wine. But the idea was to find fresh areas where the Syrah wouldn't get too rich and too ripe. And then there's a whole protocol of harvesting and winemaking. So the idea is not to harvest above 13.5, whatever the vintage conditions. So sometimes the Syrah is considered as not ripe enough, but by doing that, it keeps a very northern Rhône style. And Syrah is a versatile grape because when it overripes, it gets quickly very rich and fat. And like if people have heard or tasted some Australian Shiraz, it's a complete different world than the Petit Orso, where it doesn't have that overweight. It's a lot more lean and fresh and red fruit driven.
So will this be a typical wine? That 22 vintage, a typical wine for the expression that you're looking for. If you put your nose in it, yeah. Can you say that this is spot on, or is it lacking something?
No, it's typical for 22. 22 was a very, very hot and very dry vintage. We didn't see a drop of water since January to mid-August, roughly, or very small amounts of water. The vines suffered a lot. They went through a period of hydric stress where they stop maturing. But when they stop maturing, they stop producing sugar. The vine goes in a survival mode, so it doesn't put the strength in the fruit. It just keeps the strength for the plant. And because it stops producing sugar, it also stops degrading acidity. And mid-August, we had a miraculous rain, which unlocked that hydric stress. The vines continued maturing, but kept a high level of natural acidity. So from a very hot and dry vintage, we have a very elegant and fresh result because the alcohol is not very high and the acidity is quite high. So it's quite a contradictive year, but we're super happy for the result. And that's true all the southeast part of France. It's the same conditions. So it turns out to be quite a delicate, not over mature result.
Hva tenker du, Kjell-Gabriel? Altså, dette bamsevinen for deg? Nå har vi ikke smakt 23-årgangen riktig ennå. Det blir jo spennende å se hvordan den blir. Men vi hører på mannen her. Det er ikke bare å sette noen planter i jorda, og så kommer det druer. Altså, tenk på, hører på alt dette med været, og det mangler regn. Og sånt. Det er jo ganske komplekse ting som de driver og snakker om.
Ja, altså her, han sier jo det at det var grisevart. Det var ikke en dråpe før i august. Og det er jo et problem de har. Altså, det er rett og slett begynner å bli varmt. Flaks hadde ikke, det vi må spørre om, hadde ikke dette regnskyllet kommet, hva hadde skjedd da?
Ja, det kan vi ta med, men det kan vi spørre om på neste år, for jeg vet ikke hvordan 23-årgangen var i det hele tatt.
Nei, men jeg lurer, if it didn't rain in August,
it would have been a dramatic vintage.
Yeah.
Because the crop would have been very small, the berries were very, very little amount of water, and because of the heat, we say that the berries concentrate. It's just the water evaporating out of the berry. And then, of course, you concentrate with sugar. And the risk is to have a vintage which has passed the balance limit and which is over-concentrated. And that has been quite a fashion in the past vintages. But today, producers are looking really for that very thin point of balance between maturity, alcohol, sugar, and acidity.
Så I'm very excited to try the 23 now and compare because Elliot, what do we know about the weather in the next vintage?
On the 23 or 24?
23 that 23, we are going to taste now.
Yeah, 23 for little beer we try to making the same phenolic and flavor of every years, but 23 is a little bit more mineral, more fresh, and is young, but is vintage I love for Syrah. It's very interesting.
Det kommer til å bli kult, Kjell-Gabriel. Altså, bare for å si hva jeg tenker om den første, den som er i salg nå, den 22-årgangen. Jeg synes den var veldig rund og god og koselig og litt sånn teddybjørnaktig på en måte. Altså, den hadde jo både tanniner og syre og alt mulig rart, men det er en kosevin.
Ja, altså nå er det blitt høst, og det er jo perfekt med syrah-baserte viner nå. Altså Bamsevinen, ja det er en kosevin, det passer på hytta, den har disse mørke bærene, den deilige frukten, det er ikke veldig tanninrikt, det er ganske mye sånn behagelig, altså dette her kan du bare sitte og kose deg med foran peisen på hytta, eller hjemme i stua, eller du trenger ikke å dra på hytta for å drikke dette her. Du kan drikke overalt, og det synes jeg er ganske... Altså, det er en folkelig vin. Det er en sånn vin som alle synes at, oi, dette var godt.
Folkelig det var et bra ord for denne runden her. So, let's go to the 23. And I'm very curious about if I can detect any differences in the overall expression, because... Of course, it's young, like you said, Elliot. But what can I expect now before I put my nose in it?
Well, 23 is a more of a sort of a ideal vintage as a winemaker's perspective, because the rain arrived more or less every time it was needed. So it's Cornas has a sort of mixture. Well, this wine comes from a Mediterranean climate, which can have very long periods of drought and high temperatures, but there was always rain needed, so it's a lot more balanced vintage, a lot less stress on the plants and stress on the producers, because of course you can't control the weather, but you try and compensate the best you can. So it's ideal as a producer, and it's a very balanced classical vintage with not too much excess, but enough fruit and enough acidity. So it's slightly more classical than 22. Not as much probably fruit expression, because it's just a little bit more balanced and how would you say that, with less excess through the year.
Nå har du lukta, Kjell-Gabriel. Hva tenker du?
Jeg både lukta og smakt. Jeg er ikke vond å be. Det er mer krydder i 23. Den er ikke så fruktdreven som han akkurat sa. Og det var akkurat det, når han sa, tenkte jeg, det er litt sånn når folk sier det du akkurat sitter og tenker på, altså her er det litt mer spice notes, er ikke så mye frukt. Hva tenker du selv?
Jeg er helt enig med det kryddergreiene. Det hjalp jo at han fortalte meg hva jeg skulle smake, da, men ja, den er ung. Den trenger nok litt mer tid på å hvile seg i flaskene, men veldig, veldig lovende vin. Den er mer for mat, tenker jeg. Altså, det er ikke bare kos foran peisen, vin, liksom.
Nei, her kommer fort høstretter inn med soppbaserte sauser og noe vilt og noe som du har skutt selv. Altså, nordmenn er veldig stolte av ting de har skutt selv.
Ja, altså, da snakker vi om dyr. Vi er ikke amerikanere, liksom, sånn... Nei, okay, vi går ikke dit.
I hvert fall. Men altså, i visse miljøer er det sikkert mye rart som skjer, men det var mer, jeg tenkte på firbeinte, hårete saker som man finner i skogen, det var akkurat det jeg tenkte på.
So, what is the prospect for the little beer? Are you going to continue to develop it, or are you happy as it is now, Elliot?
For little beer now, we like little beer, but we prefer more variety of the game. But I think little beer, the quantity in 23 is very important, because it's vintage. We want that. We want that the vintage, and for me, the little beer for sure is the bottle of the vineyard we making a lot because people love that. We don't know why, but people love little beer.
Christoph, can you give us a little peek in the future of that particular brand?
Well, the Little Bear is going to stay if the weather permits in the same lines of style. But it's true that what Mathieu's been doing is he's been piggybacking on this cuvée with other wines and selecting Syrah from the Provençal Drôme, which is a bit more north of Visan, on limestone. Then he's also been buying some grapes with other producers in Ardèche, which have more altitude vineyards on very dry, rocky limestone. So it's different terroir. So the idea is to continue working with the bear, presented on different ways or different situations on the label, but mainly to highlight different types of terroir, expressed always with the same Syrah, just producing different wines. So really highlighting the effect of the terroir. And Mathieu really looks to make wines which are very digestible. That's why there's no oak. It's a lot of fruit, a lot of freshness. And every type of wine he produces, he's trying to make a wine which is very pleasing. And it can be easy wines, but not simple wines. And it's all, of course, organic farming. The estate is worked in Berdanami, and the Petit Orso, it's some parts are worked in Berdanami, but everything is certified organic farming. So again, with no synthetic molecules. As for the winemaking, there's no additives. It's all, apart from a bit of sulfite to stabilize the wine, but the idea that plays as well in that sort of high digestible profile.
Veldig spennende å høre hvordan jeg har tenkt å dra dette her videre. Vi skal runde av nå hvert øyeblikk, Kjell-Gabriel, men jeg synes Bamsevinen lever i beste velgående. Ja, det har egentlig vært ganske interessant å bli med på denne lille minismakingen med gutta. Hva synes du?
Altså, jeg tror at det veldig mange som setter pris på Bamsevinen og har liksom den der liksom en litt sånn sin greie. Og så tror jeg mange av de som hører på denne episoden nå, bare Bamsevin har aldri hørt om. Fordi jeg tror du må være litt inn i vinmiljøet for å vite egentlig hva det er. Men nå er folk blitt opplyst da, og at Bamsevin rett og slett en Syrah fra Nord-Rôhne med en etikett som ser ut som en liten teddybjørn på utsiden, og veldig kul og charmerende. Og vinen, produktet inni, som han sa i sted, det var litt sånn, tør vi gjøre en så kul etikett i det der konservative franske miljøet? Og så har jo det funket som bare juling.
Det har det, og bare for hvis noen lurte da, så har vi jo, altså det koster jo penger dette her, men ikke all verden synes jeg, hvor mye tipper du den ligger på da? Den til salgs på alle vinmonopol, mesteparten, det stort sett i basis i hvert fall. Du kan gå inn i en butikk og kjøpe den. Hvor mye tror du?
Ja, altså dette dårlig gjort, for det som regel jeg som får vite hva, men jeg tipper 260 kanskje?
Oi, ja, du priser den opp. 235 koster 22-årgangen som ute nå. Og jeg synes jo egentlig det når du hører på all den jobben, alt det greiene som de gutta har lagt ned og holdt på her ja, nå det enda en generasjon som sitter og jobber med det. Da ikke det gærent, spør meg altså.
Nei, jeg skulle ønske at fatteren og bestefatteren og så videre eide noen vingårder. Det gjør de ikke, så jeg får bo i rekkehus i Asker foreløpig. Men dette her gøy, dette her.
Da sier vi tusen takk til gutta. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So glad to have you on the show, and I'm very excited to follow the label further on.